Okay. Rabbi say, beheading, halachic brain death. The end or maybe not. The end or maybe not is a double entendre because it's the end or maybe not. But also, I'm hoping it's the last year on the subject, but maybe not because I may need a little bit more. I know next week we're not going to be around, so maybe I'll give it Tuesday. We'll see. We'll do the best we can. So, a little bit of trivia from last week. We said that the Rabbi actually, besides being a major Talmud Chacham philosopher, he was a major astronomer and mathematician. And until this day, he created a certain instrument using navigation and astronomy to make measurements of angles. What is the name of that instrument? Jacob's staff. Jacob's staff. That's the name of the instrument. And everyone's trying to figure out why it's called Jacob's staff. If it was called Jacob's ladder, we would understand, right? If it was Moses' staff, we would understand. But it doesn't seem in the Bible it ever talks about Jacob's staff. They were trying to figure out where that name came from. They're all different type of conjectures, but one of them is that the Rabbi had a good friend named Yaakov ben Makir. Now Yaakov ben Makir was also a Rishon and also a big genius, and it could be he was the one who actually created this instrument, and it was sort of Rabbi who sort of like sold it. He was like the PR guy. It's not clear exactly who made the instrument, whether the Rabbi or this Yaakov ben Makir. Now, why is this Yaakov ben Makir well known? Because he was one of the people who fought with the Rashba about not learning philosophy. If you remember last week mentioned, the Rashba said there was a chayrim of anyone learning philosophy under 25 years old. So Yaakov ben Makir was also a big Talmud Chacham, a big philosopher. He felt that the Rashba should mind his own business, and you keep with the Spain. He was from France. But I just wanted to mention to the doctor, in this excommunication the Rashba gave against philosophers, he says, but even though you can't learn philosophy until you're 25, but anyone who's learning medicine can learn medicine before the 25. So I'm not too sure if you're 25 or not, I'm not exactly sure, but don't worry about it. No matter what, learning medicine was never included in the chayrim. Like we said last week, philosophy meant a lot of things, all sciences, but the Rashba never excluded learning medicine. Right? Fine. Well, okay, there you go. So now, another point of trivia that I heard from my cousin, Dr. Shaya Minkowitz. He sent me that we were talking about living without heads. He said it's pretty difficult to live without a head. And actually, in Fruita, Colorado, I don't know where that is, but it's somewhere in Colorado, there is something called Mike the Headless Chicken Day. It's a well-known festival, the Mike the Headless Chicken Day. What are you looking at? Mike the Headless Chicken Day in Fruita, Colorado. And what is that all about? Because in the 1940s, there was a guy named Lloyd Olson who invited over his mother-in-law for supper. That was the first mistake. But he invited over his mother-in-law for supper, and he went out to check the chicken for dinner, and something went wrong with the axe. It cut off basically 95% of the head, but it missed the brainstem, and the jugular vein basically clotted. So the chicken survived. But not only did it survive, so there was a headless chicken running around for 2 years. Now, right?
He took a tour.
For 2 years. You know about Mike? The headless chicken? I know about this. So he made, hear this guy, but no head. No head. No head. And the animal was walking, and they would feed it. It was a singe. And for 2 years, this guy made a mint off it. He made $60,000 a month.
Rabbi, no.
Running around the country, showing this. What I need sponsorship for, right? You go run around, the chicken.
Chicken's cheaper.
And after 2 years, it finally died for whatever reason. So, I really do suggest that the yeshiva should give off on Mike, the Headless Chicken Day, is sometime in May. And so I said that was an interesting little tidbit that I did not know about. Okay, Mike, the Headless Chicken Day in Colorado. You don't want to miss it. Fine. Another piece of trivia, which I wanted to look into this. What is this two-headed? We mentioned last week in Gemara, a two-headed person. What did I find out? It's pretty prevalent. It's not that it's actually not so it's not so far-fetched. is actually a famous twin, Abby and Brittany Hensel, that are still alive today. And they even have their own reality show of some sorts. And they are conjoined twins. And they have two heads, totally syncing on their own. They do have two hearts and on one spot and two spines, but that's it. The rest of the body is totally one. Everything from the stomach down is one. I'm not sure if they're two stomachs, but definitely nothing else is two, right? And how they work? They each have an arm and they could drive. One head, Brittany, I guess, controls the left hand, and what's the other girl's name? Abby controls the right hand. And when they walk together. One controls one leg, and one controls the other leg, and they live. Unbelievable. And they're teaching, and they're alive, and they do everything in coordination. And there actually is a part of their body that, let's say you pinch it, both heads will feel it. There's a part of their body that if you pinch one side, one head would feel, one head won't feel it. But there is a part of their body where if you pinch it, they both feel it. I thought that was totally fascinating. That is right there. And everyone wants the question. What's the big question that everyone wants to know? Did they get married or not? That's what they all want to. Did they get married, right? There's rumors that they actually somehow they got married. Don't ask me how. I don't want to go there. But be it as it may, this is pretty amazing. It's trivia. Rabbi Isai. Let us recap what we did last week. And this is a very difficult shir, so I need your attention. You'll see why in a minute. We said last week, amazingly enough, the Nishal David and said you can live without a heart. You can live without a heart, and I know this sounds almost astounding, and obviously I would not ascribe to this in our days, but that's what Nishal David says. And he's not the only one. There are a lot of acquaintances say you can live without a heart. The Sholem Meshiv, who is Yosef Shol Nathan's son, he didn't live so long ago, lived in the 1800s. Also, you can live without a heart. And they all bring a bunch of proofs. Yosef Shol Nathan brings a proof. I think is a very weak proof. The famous Gemara talk about Oris Levuvim, that the Goyim used to rip out the heart of an animal while it was alive and sacrifice it to their gods, whatever it was. So he says, if the thing was going to die a second later afterwards, why would they do that? If the thing was going to die out, if you're going to rip out the heart, a minute later the animal's going to die, why did they have to rip it out while the animal's alive? Were they so merciless? I think that's a very weak proof. Why? Because they're animals. I don't know what the hedonistic, I don't know what their avodah zarah is. That maybe they want to, he wants to prove, you see from there, you know why they ripped it out while it was alive? Because they could survive. That's his proof. He wants to prove that you can live without a heart, or else why would the heathen, why would the pagans pull out the heart while it's alive?
As long as it's alive without a heart, it's true.
No. I would say no, they pull out the heart, it dies right away. It actually does die a second later. Why do they do it that way? Because they're animals, and because that was part of their crazy ritual. Maybe they were, no, it doesn't say live, He's surmising. Why would the heathen pull out the heart while it's alive if it dies a second later? I would say, I don't know, that's part of their crazy idolatry. I have no idea what the heck, why they would do that. But he says it must be because they had a way to pull out the heart, and it would have died. Right? Okay, be the mate. That's what a lot of our claims that you can live without a heart. Again, obviously, I will not ascribe such thing. Now, the initial David we said last week brought the Shari Shemayim. That's how we got involved in the Rabbi. And let's find it. Here it is. And the Shari Shemayim, initial David says, look, I see you can live without a heart. Of course you can live without a heart. The Shari Shemayim brings down anecdotal proofs from all different stories. A monkey, his heart was pulled out, and it was running around for 12 hours. And there was a bird, his heart was pulled out, and was running around. So you see, you can live without a heart. You can live without a heart. Okay? So we said that the Chacham said, first of all, you're quoting Galens. And Aristotle argued on Galens. Galens was an early philosopher. And Aristotle holds, no, The heart is the source of everything, movement and life. And I don't care what your crazy stories are. A monkey's living 12 hours without a heart. But by the way, he says, by the way, says the Chacham Tzvi, even if you're right that the monkey or the bird could walk around 12 hours without a heart, that doesn't prove anything. Because maybe movement is in the brain, but the source of life is the heart. And that's it. So it doesn't make a difference that it's moving around. As long as it has no heart, it's dead. And he brings a lot of proof to this point we said. We see many times in Shas, movement doesn't mean you're alive. We talked about the case of the Gemara talked about a guy without a head. We want to know where to bury him, where the head is and where the body is. The Akiva says you bury him where the head is, and the body walked a couple miles, but he died where the head is. So you see you could be dead. No one argues that you're not dead when your head's off. So you see you could walk, and he brings he talks about the Rambam, who talks about the lizard when he's covered with tail, is still swishing around the tail. So says the Chacham Tzvi, A, I don't care what you say from Galen. B, even if the Galen's right, it's all about the movement. The movement is from the head. But without the heart, you are dead. No heart, you can't live, you are dead. And that's it. And that's called Pirkus. Okay, fine, great. Now, first of all, the initial David says, you know what, my friend, Chacham Tzvi, if it's moving around for a couple of minutes, fine. But these philosophers, they're walking around for 12 hours. 12 hours cannot be something that's dead for 12 hours can't be walking around. Okay, a couple of minutes, maybe. Okay. Then the initial David, this is where we got it to last week. The initial David said, you know what, forget the philosophers, forget Galen, forget Aristotle, forget Shai Shemayim, forget about all those guys. Aristotle and Galen get the honorific sherry, right? Shem Rishon Yirkov. Forget about those guys. It's an open Gemara in Yuma. Forget it. It's an open Gemara in Yuma. Right? And we quoted this Gemara, but this is where we wanted to get to. Now, I have the Yuma. I gave out the Yuma here. You'll see why in a minute. It's very important that you have it in front of you. You'll see why in a minute why this is important. But right now, we're not going to learn inside. What is the Gemara in Yuma talking about? We went through the Gemara once or twice. The Gemara in Yuma talks about how do you identify someone is dead. To Michal Shabbos, right? Someone that doesn't look too alive. He's under a pile of stones. Do you excavate him or not? So at the end of the day, the Gemara says the Machlokes Tanaim. One says you check his nose, and one says you check his heart. And the Gemara comes out at the end of the day, check his nose. That's the Gemara, straight up. So says the initial David, quite cogently, Chacham Tzvi, our Machlokes, the Machlokes Tanaim. The one who says checks the heart obviously holds the source of life is the heart. That's why he's checking the heart. And the one who says checks the nose holds the source of life is the nose, the brain. Basically, we're going to say the nose and the brain are the same thing. The breathing from the nose, which comes from the brainstem. So, Chacham Tzvi, you're not in a bad company, but the halacha is we check the nose. That's the halacha. Open up the Rambam, open the Shulchan Aruch, you check the nose. That's it. Black and white, green and yellow. You don't check the heart. We don't pass like that on the Amr. We don't care about the heart. The heart is irrelevant. Why don't you check the heart? I'll tell you why you don't check the heart. Because you can live without a heart. You don't check it because if you can live without it, it doesn't show that you're dead if it's not beating. So the initial David says, you have your man the Amr. Heart. But listen, we don't pass that way. You just check the nose. That's the halacha. And if you don't check the nose, you see the heart has no relevancy. And goodbye. Finished. And so therefore, if you're not breathing, you're dead. Why? Why not breathing? We're going to say now, for simplicity's sake, your brainstem went. So therefore, that's it. The Chacham Tzvi says, Nishal David, I am shocked that you look at. I'm shocked. He says, Nishal David, didn't you read Rashi? Don't you know how to read Rashi? Rashi says not like you. Now, look at your sheets. We're doing the second Rashi, the second Rashi that I underlined. Let's look at Rashi, where the letter that I underlined. Mar Oma Ad Choitmoi. One says you check the nose. The Zimnim the Enchias Nicker beliboy, v'nicker b'chaytmai. Because sometimes life cannot be recognized or ascertained or you can't tell from the heart, but it is recognized in the nose. What does that sound like? What does it sound like? The words are again. Sometimes you cannot recognize, you cannot ascertain, or you cannot diagnose the heart. So therefore we go to the nose. Says the Chacham Tzvi, Rashi says openly it's all about the heart. The only thing is about the heart. It's all about the heart, according to everyone. It's just, what are you going to do? You're going to put your ear on the chest. You know, sometimes the heart is, the guy's obviously in bad shape, it's beating very low, and you got the chest cage, you got the bone and skin, you got maybe the guy's a little bit heavy set. You just can't, sometimes his heart is beating, but you won't be able to ascertain it. So therefore, if you check the nose, the breathing, then for sure you know the heart is not beating. So said the Chacham Tzvi, Nishal David, you didn't read Rashi. Rashi says everyone holds all about the heart. That's it. The source of life is the heart. It's all about the heart. So why are you checking the nose? He just says because sometimes the enchias nicker beliboy, the nicker bechaytmai. You can't hear whether the heart is beating, but you can tell by if he's not breathing, then you know the heart's not beating because there's no oxygen, no this, no that. Okay? So therefore, the Chacham Tzvi says, you don't know what you're talking about, but even Rashi. Now, I agree with the Chacham Tzvi. This is a problem. It's the best way to read this Rashi. It doesn't have to, it's not 1,000%. It's not 1,000%. But that's the way the Chacham Tzvi reads it. Nicker beliboy, nicker b'chaytmai. Okay, great. Oh. So now. Now. So what do we have here? If we stop here right now, what do we have here? We said, what is going to be in our day and age? What do we have here? What is a brain dead person? Let's get this clear. It's not clinical death. Clinical death means a guy who dies and wakes up again. That's all right. You ever get the stories? You go on the yeshivatorah.com. They'll tell you, oh, I died, I came back, and I saw God, so therefore I should be religious. Okay, the problem is Christianity, every religion has these stories, so I would have become frum based on that. But right, you always hear these guys who came back to life. We saw a tunnel. We saw so warm. It was so fuzzy. It was gewaldic. I found God. Right? Okay. We're not talking about clinical death. That's not what we're talking about. We will, maybe one day, if we ever get to a shear, a guy goes to clinical death, so he has to remarry his wife, because maybe he was like he's dead, because maybe he has to remarry his wife. We could talk about that one day. We're not talking about clinical death. We are not talking about partial brain death. What's partial brain death? Never someone in a coma, in a vegetable. His higher functioning doesn't work. So basically, the higher part of the brain, the cerebrum went, but he's still breathing on his own. We are not talking about that. We are not talking about that at all. Because in that case, the guy's breathing on his own. It's just that the higher functioning is not working. We're talking about full brain death, which basically means he's not breathing on his own. He can't breathe because the brain stem controls the breathing. So what usually happens? Everything goes. You're not breathing, everything goes. Heart, everything goes. But nowadays, we could ventilate. We could artificially make a guy breathe. We could artificially make the guy breathe with a ventilator. And then, since oxygen is coming into the body, the rest of the body is working. The heart is working, the digestive system is working, almost everything is working. Why? Because the heart has its own autonomous system that works for a while. The heart, actually, you can take a heart out of the body, put it in a jar. If you pump with oxygen, it will work for a while. So, it's true the brain is not working, and therefore you are not breathing, not ventilating. But if you put him on a ventilator, you're getting oxygen to the body. The rest of the body works. The rest of the body is autonomous or works with the spine. Okay? It'll be for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Usually only for a couple of weeks. Oh, so now, what will be the law in that case? What do you mean? What's the law? Can you pull out his heart? A guy on a ventilator, can you pull out his heart? That's the question. Do you say, what do you mean pull out his heart? He's still alive. Or do you say, no, we can pull out his heart. There's some recipient who could have a wonderful life if you pull out his heart. Will you allow to a heart transplant on a ventilator? So we said, seemingly, this is the machlokes between the initial David and the Chacham Tzvi. The Chacham Tzvi say, what do you mean pull out his heart? He's alive. His heart is beating. There's no machine causing his heart to beat. His heart is beating on his own. It's just a machine putting air into him. There's a machine that's making his lungs. There's the machine making the lungs go back and forth. But once the air goes into the lungs, everything happens on its own. There's gas exchange, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide exchange, the heart is pumping. So Chacham says, what do you mean he's alive? His heart is pumping. Remember, we said, heart is everything. The only reason why you're checking the breath is because of the heart. So even though this guy is not breathing, but the whole purpose of checking whether the guy is breathing or not was in order to see whether the heart is working. Well, here the heart's working, right? And so therefore he would say it's murder if you take out the heart.
But the brain makes you breathe.
Well,
The brain makes the person breathe.
So right.
If you're not brain, you're not going to breathe.
That's right, but you have the ventilator. The ventilator's
But you are dead.
no, because the heart is beating on its own. The Chacham Tzvi would the Chacham Tzvi says the main source of life is the heart. So, and the only reason why you checked the Gemara Yuma, the only reason why we said you checked the Gemara Yuma, the breathing, was just to see what's going on in the heart. So usually, in a normal case, if you're not breathing, the heart's not working. That's the way it works. Everything goes. In our case, we found a phenomena in our days that you are not breathing, but the heart's working. You're mechanically putting oxygen being put into you, and the lungs are being deflated and inflated. But bottom line is the heart is pumping on its own. So therefore, the Chacham Tzvi would say there's no way you're dead. The initial David says, I don't care about the heart. You can live without a heart. And we're going to say, for convenience sake, so whether the heart is beating or not is actually irrelevant. So he's going to say, read the Gemara simply. If you're not breathing, you are dead. The guy on the brain dead person is not breathing. So he is dead. It makes a difference the heart pumping. It makes a difference that everything is working. All we care about is not breathing. Is he breathing? No, he is not breathing. Okay? That's where we came up. That's where we came up. Now let's go into this really in depth. We're going to interview now the Rabbanut, the Israeli Rabbinical Council. Right? The Israeli Rabbinical Council, they actually hold, take out the heart. They say a guy who is on a ventilator, even though everything in the body's working, except just for the breathing. Again, just the breathing means just bringing in oxygen. The exchange of gases is dead. Take out the heart, transplant, no problem. That is Israeli law. Now, the Israeli law is based on the Rabbinut. Rabbinut are big rabbis. We're not talking about big rabbis, right? So, well, I could give them a name. There are many names, right? So we will go through that. So we're gonna talk about my fight if we get there. So to say, hey, what do you guys hold? Rabbanut, what do you hold? They'll say, what do you mean? What do we hold? I just told you what we hold. We have a Gemara in Yuma, very clear, that says it's all about breathing, and that's it. I mean, the simple reading of the passage is just about breathing. That is simple reason. That is a simple reason. Now, me personally, we'll say about me personally later on. But right now, that's what it says. Wait a minute. The Rashi, Chacham Tzvi, and the Rashi. What's going on? How can you forget? The Chacham Tzvi says heart, and he says Rashi says heart. What's going on? Says the Rabbanut. You know what? If you look at the Chacham Tzvi inside, he didn't know what he's talking about. Why? We'll see. The Chacham Tzvi, when he says he's going into the heart, you can't live without a heart, and the heart is everything, the source of life, he quotes the Kuzari. He quotes the Reb Sadia Goin. He quotes many Sfarim that say that, you know why? The heart is everything. And they say, and like he said, the reason why you check the nose is to see what's going on in the heart. Because he says the purpose of the heart is to bring air into the body and to spread the air to all of the body. Because the body overheats. It's like my old car. It overheats the body. And the pump is working. The cart is working hard. It gets very hot. We need to bring air into that, cool air into that body. And that's what the heart does. The heart brings air into the body. It cools itself up. and through all the all those veins and artery. Well, that's bringing air to everywhere, and therefore, says the Chacham, of course, the heart is the sword of life. The heart is everything, and the breathing is just for the heart. The breathing just is just to show that the heart's alive, because the whole breathing is just to facilitate the heart working, to bring the air everywhere, and to close the heart. I'm not going to read chapter and verse, but this is basically what he says. So says the Rabbanut. That's all very nice until 1628. But in 1628, we have a guy named William Harvey. Dr. William Harvey said, boys, you guys don't know what you're talking about. The heart has nothing to do with breathing. The heart does not circulate. Not air goes to the heart to cool it down. And it's not that through the veins and arteries there's air going through. You guys have no idea what you're talking about. So, what? The heart gets blood everywhere. The oxygenated blood, it gets blood everywhere. So the one who first discovered the circulation of the blood was a guy named William Harvey. Now, don't ask me how the ancients thought what the blood was. I don't have no idea. But be it as it may, so therefore, says the Rabbanut, don't start quoting me the Chacham Tzvi. He actually got it wrong, because he don't know what he's talking about, and all these Shainim and the Kuzri, they don't know what they're talking about. That's not the way it is. And then they quote the famous question: do we have to say the rabbis, the early rabbis, knew about science, didn't know about science? Could we say they made mistakes? So we're going with the subscribing with the opinion that rabbis in science can make mistakes. They can make mistakes. Rabbi Sadi can make mistakes about science, and they all can make mistakes about science. So basically, says the Rabbanut, don't tell me about the Chacham Tzvi. I don't want to hear about him. Because what the Chacham Tzvi saying? Oh, you know why you're crazy? You're checking the nose, because the nose is connected to the heart, and the main thing is the heart. And what about Rashi? Well, we don't got to read Rashi that way, and forget about the heart. I don't care about the heart per se. So what is Rabbanut going to say? They're going to say, all I care about is not breathing. That's all I care about. Nothing else. Why are you not breathing? It could be your heart went. It could be the brain went. I don't care why you're not breathing. It's really what you said. I don't care why you're not breathing, says Rabbanut. The text says not breathing. That's it. There could be a lot of reasons. In the good old days, why were you not breathing? Because everything went. The brain went, the heart went, it all went simultaneously, basically. But at the end of the day, the simple text says not breathing. So, the brain dead guy, is the heart working? Yeah. But is he breathing? No. Why is he not breathing? Because the brain stem is dead. Okay, he's not breathing. That's it. Not breathing, dead. The neshama left, right? When you say dead, you think the neshama says, what's going on with you, my friend? Oh, you ain't breathing? I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I don't care I don't care that the heart is pumping. I don't care, right? That is the Rabbanut, their shita. Okay? Now. So, it's not so bad. So let's go to the other side. So you got the Rabbanut on one side. What would the detractors say? What would Rabbi Yashiv or many others who disagree, what would they say? What would they answer to this? So, first of all, they would answer, now we're going to go through like 5 or 6 things that they would say back. First thing that they would say is, you know what? It doesn't make a difference if the Chacham Tzvi didn't get it exactly right. Okay, the Chacham Tzvi messed up a little bit. And he thought, that the heart causes breathing, and the heart brings the air into it, and then when the air goes to the heart, it circulates the air all over the place. Okay, he got that wrong, that little part wrong. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean to say that he's totally wrong. It could be the really reason why you check the breath, because you want to see what's going on to the heart. Because that is true. If you are not breathing, your heart gets no oxygen and your heart stops. That's the reality. So you could read the Gemara and you could read the Rashi, check the nose. Why are you checking the nose? Because you want to see if the heart's beating. So it's not the way the Chacham Tzvi said, because the heart overheats or something because you get cool air. But that's the reality. If you're not breathing, your heart is not going to be working in the good old days. So it could very well be true the Chacham Tzvi is right, that the principal issue is to decide whether you're alive or dead is if the heart is beating or not. And you check, even though the Gemara Newman says you check the breathing, you're checking the breathing to figure out if the heart is working. Okay? So If that's what it is, the Rabbanut is out. Because the Rabbanut is saying, oh, I don't really care about the why you're not breathing. I just care that you're not breathing. And we're saying, no, we care about the why you're not breathing. And the why you're not breathing is because the heart's not working. And the why you're not breathing, or we care about that the heart's not working. And by a brain deaf person, the heart is actually, yes working. Oh, now, that's number one. Number two, a lot of rabbis say, even you Rabbanut who say not breathing. What do you mean not breathing? You mean not breathing forever, never, never. Irreversible not breathing. Let's say Rabbanut say, of course, irreversible not breathing. Obviously, it has to be irreversible, right? People sometimes lose their breath for a while. Obviously, dead means not breathing forever. And how do you know you're not breathing forever? How do you know? You never. So say, how do you ever know? What do you mean, how do you ever know? A dead guy, you keep him there, you put the feather there, you keep him there for 20 minutes. You know he ain't breathing ever again. Because if he hasn't breathed for 20 minutes, he ain't breathing ever again. But this guy on the respirator, you never got to that 20 minutes. You never ever got to that point. You never got to the point, let's say 20 minutes is the mark, you never get to that point. Because you put air into him before you get to that point. Right? So you never actually know it's irreversible. Now, I personally think it's an extremely weak timing. Extremely weak timing. Because, no, they could have, we have tests today, at least to check that the brain stem is dead. So I think it's an extremely weak timing. No, we never know it's irreversible because we never got to that point where we wasn't breathing for 20 minutes because we always put him on the ventilator. No, we can know. We have tests that the brain stem is dead. So I think that's a little bit of a weak timing. But that's what some rabbis say. Some rabbis say you can never ever know if you put him on a ventilator if it's irreversible. Okay. Tiny number 3. Some rabbis say, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? The guy's not breathing. He's breathing. He's on a ventilator. He's breathing. This whole conversation doesn't start. He's breathing. His heart's working. What do you mean? What's the difference if a guy's sick and you give him medicine and because of that you're breathing? Or if he's breathing because he has a lung inside of his body or outside his body, what are you saying he's not breathing? He is breathing. Rabbanut, what do you need? The guy has to be irreversibly not breathing. He's breathing. Look, so he's getting a little help from the machine. He's getting a little help from the machine. The machine becomes part of his body, sort of. So what do you think he's not breathing? He is breathing. So even if you're right, the heart makes a difference. But at least the breathing makes a difference. This I feel is an extremely weak taina. That's not called breathing. If his lungs are not working and nothing is being drawn in by the body itself, because it's an outside machine that's making the lungs go back and forth and putting in oxygen, I don't think that would be called breathing. There are big shilas about like someone dies and he had like screws in it because he broke a bone, or pacemakers, or plagues. Do you have to bury the guy? You have to bury the guy. Does that become part of the body? Not come part of the body. The big shilas about pacemakers. Could you shut them off once the guy died by terminal illness? Zero here is like more in the body. The plates become part of the body, and the pacemaker may be part of the body. We'll give a share about that one day, about all that type of stuff. But to say that someone connected to an iron lung, these ventilators, a ventilator, and to say that it's called he's breathing, I don't like that. So next, so we did one, the Chacham Tzvi would be against the Rabbanut. I think a lot of legitimacy to that taina. 2, we said, well, it's not. We can't check that's irreversible. I don't think that's a good taina. I think we could check that's irreversible. 3, we said being connected to the machine is like you're breathing. I think that's a very weak taina. But here comes the big taina. And this is where we want to take, this is where it is at. Everything else was just fluff. And this is very difficult. So to get this across, you have to pay attention. This is difficult. Because there is another Rashi. There is another Rashi. And there is another Rashi. Look at that page I gave you. Now, if I would read this Rashi, I would never see any of this. It's unbelievable what the rabbis see over here. We're talking about the Gemara talking about here, checking out a guy who died. So look at the first Rashi, I underlined it. In Daimel Mace, if he's dead, if he looks like he's a dead person, she'enai mazes evarim. Nothing of his limbs are moving. So Rashi says here, you know what? The guy's under the rubble. You got to check. But it's only talking about the guy's not moving, right? So if I would have read this Rashi, I would have said, yeah, if the guy's screaming, help, 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 you don't got to start putting a feather on to figure out if the guy's alive or not. That's how I would have read the Rashi. But what does this Rashi say?
He's preserving.
What does this Rashi say? All of this checking is only if the guy is not moving. He says the black and white. In Doimalei she'enamei the verb. He says, all this checking is if the guy is not moving. If the guy is moving, we don't care about checking. That's what Rashi says. So how would you understand this Rashi? What does Rashi seem to be saying? Rashi is saying, you want to know if a guy is dead? You have to have a holistic approach. A holistic approach to death. It's got to be that he's not moving, and you check, and he checked his nose, then he's dead. But if he's moving, he's not dead. That's what it seems the simple reading of Rashi would mean. So let's talk to the ice. Let's talk to the Rabbanut. Mr. Rabbanut. I'm not deriding them. You're right. Forget the heart. The heart's not that important. It is important. It's number one up there. Number two. You argue the Chacham Tzvi. The heart is just like every other organ in the body. Nothing special about the heart. But bottom line is there movement in this brain deaf person? Is there movement? Of course, the heart's beating. There's movement.
He doesn't move his limbs, though.
There's movement. And even the digestive system works. Everything is working. And I'll tell you something else, my friends.
Physical.
Even a brain dead person, he does move a little. There are some reflexes. He turns his head. He turns the head a little bit.
Eyelids.
His toes crunch up a little bit, curl up a little bit. There is some movement.
My dad's hands used to move.
There's some movement. So, says the detractors that say, wait a minute, Rabbanut, you know what? You want to say the heart's not a big deal? Okay, the heart's not a big deal. But the guy's moving. And Rashi says movement precludes death. He says the black and white. Right? Moreover, you're going to ask on the Rabbanut, it's an open Gemara in Gittin. We're all learning Gittin. What does it say in Gittin? It says in Gittin, we don't have it here. Basically, Gemara says in Gittin like this. Let's say someone gets his windpipe and his esophagus get cut, right? The two simanim, we call them the two simanim. The two main arteries or veins or pipes in the neck. So the Gemara says like this, fascinatingly. The Gemara says he's dead. There's no way he's going to live. There's no way he's going to live. If everything is severed, he will definitely die eventually. He will definitely die. There's no question. Right. But if he gets, God forbid, everything's cut, and he says, give a get to my wife, or he hints to it, give the get to his wife. Meaning, the Gemara is saying is, he will die in a half an hour, but if he could somehow other get a message over to get my wife divorced, you could divorce his wife. And the Gemara says, basically, and only when he stops moving, then you know he's dead. Very important. Only when he stops moving, you know he's dead. So therefore, if you cut the simanim, he's still alive, and you can even give a get on his behalf. I don't know. We'll be creative about that one, but okay. But be as it may, so here the Gemara says openly, black and white. We have two sources basically that movement precludes death. Because the Gemara says there, he's for sure going to die, but while he's moving, he's still alive. So they're going to say, the detractors are going to say to the Rabbanut. Now, it says the same thing over here. Here's a Rambam. Let's say you live with a woman, Eishes, so it's a very bad thing, right? If you're adulterous. Habala Erva, or whatever, any Erva, very bad thing. Let's say the woman or the animal is a treifa, or you lived with her after her simanim were cut, right? Something for the Hamas guys out there, right? So basically, you lived with a woman after her windpipe and esophagus were cut, and right? Not necromancy, that's the point. not necromancer. After she soifel amos micholi zeh, va'afil shachar by shnei simonim v'dainim v'rechezes b'chai misa. You have a woman, she's thrashing around, and she has her 2 simonim cut, and you got some wacko living with her, right? Like I said, Hamas. You got these whack out people living. That's what they did. That's what the Hamas people did. If you know what they did, that's what they did, right? They basically killed the woman and then they live with her. So basically, it says in black and white, you're chayiv misa. If you live with a dead person, you're not chayiv misa. If you live with a dead person, you're not chayiv misa. But it says here, if you cut her windpipe and esophagus, and you live with her, you're chayiv misa because she's still alive. So what do you see from here, Rabbi side?
The heart.
What do you see from Rabbi's side? We see here that the detractors are going to say to the Rabbanut. The detractors are going to say to the Rabbanut. They're going to say, listen. They're going to say, listen. We're good? The detractors are going to say to the Rabbanut, listen. You want to say irreversible breathing? That's the main thing. The irreversible breathing. That's what counts. But look, I have 2 sources here. 2 sources here that what? That if there's movement, we have the Rashi in Yuma, and we have the Gemara in Gittin, that says if there's movement, what does that preclude? Death. You're not dead if you're moving. Oh. So, what is the Rabbanut going to answer to that? What are they going to answer? What are they going to do to that? What are they going to do to that? Oh. So, the Rabbanut are going to say a couple, and this is going to be crucial to get their shita. They can say 5 or 6 things. Okay? One thing they could say is, which is very, very weak, they'll say, no, the brain dead guy, that's not called movement. That's not called movement. What's going on inside the body, that the heart is beating and things are moving in the body, that's not called movement because it's not perceptible. And these reflexes are very subtle, and what's going on outside the body, the reflexes that are happening outside the body, that's very subtle. It's not called moving. A brain dead guy is not called moving. Okay? That's very weak. It's very weak to say that it's not called any movement. That's pretty weak. Oh.
Everything is the heart now?
Oh.
Moves to the heart? Brain is not the source of life?
Right? That's very weak. Oh. Now, what they will say is one or 2 other things. They're going to say,
Who's they? One?
you got to read all the literature. It's like 5 years worth of literature on this. So basically, they're going to say, you know what? Wait a minute. You're mixing up things. Sure, Rashi says if you're moving, that precludes death. And sure, the Gemara in Gittin says black and white, if you're moving, that precludes death. But that's only if you're moving because of brain reflexes, because of brain movement. Then it's called that you're still alive, especially because there may be some consciousness. But if you're moving because of autonomous movement of the organ, or because the spine is causing reflex, that we don't care about. You hear that? So we talk to the Rabbanut.
You know what it was?
That's a big question. How in the world does the Gemara know about all this? But Rabbanut, what do you need to be dead? Irreversible, not breathing. I don't care why you're not breathing. I don't care why you're not breathing. You're not breathing, you're dead. And no movement coming from the brain. No movement of the body or being facilitated by the brain. So let's see. The Gemara in Gittin is the guy moving because of brain? Of course, he's saying, give my wife a get. He's conscious. Of course, he's moving there because of the brain. And we're going to say Rashi also, when Rashi says no movement, he really meant no movement from the brain. Now, this, to me, is very stretched. Because it's almost like you're picking, irreversible breathing. I don't care why you're irreversibly breathing. Based on the Gemara in Yuma. Oh, about the movement? Well, it depends where the movement is coming from. If the movement is coming from the brain, then we have to say you're still alive, for whatever reasons. But if the movement is coming from the spine, they're not. It sounds to be a little bit contrived. But says the Rabbanut, it's an open Mishnah. It's an open Mishnah in Arlois. What does the Mishnah say in Arlois? That if you cut off a guy's head, even though he's running around, he's dead. Open Mishnah Arlois. If you cut off a guy's head, he's dead. Human, but animal too. Right? So it says That's how proficient oil is. So proficient oil is, black and white. Cut off a guy's head, he's dead. Even though he's running around. It says openly, even though he's running around. It says Rabbi, I don't say, but there's movement. There's movement. What do you see from there? That the movement from spinal movement or some type of autonomous movement not coming from the brain, we don't care about. We only care about movement from the brain. That's how it all falls. That's how they set it up. According to Rabbi, no irreversible breathing. I don't care why it's irreversible breathing. And no movement from the brain. The Gemara in Gittin and that Rashi knew talking about moving the brain. And we see from the Mishnah Oilers, moving from the spine, we don't care about. Now, for different reasons, there are textual problems which I can't get into. But they're answering the number one question everyone asks them. What is the number one question everyone asks them? Rabbanut? Irreversible breathing? Not breathing is dead? You ever heard of Lou Gehrig's disease? You ever heard of polio? There are a lot of people out there who cannot breathe. They cannot breathe. Are you going to tell me, Mr. Rabbanut, that everyone who has polio that we know, or Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, they're dead? Even though they're talking and basically you can communicate with them? Writing. So that's a big problem. That's what everyone asks from the Rabbanut. How can you say irreversible? How can you say? They feel learn like everyone else, the heart is beating. Oh. So what is the Rabbanut going to answer? No, the Rabbanut going to say, their brain is, the reason why they're not breathing is because their lungs get weak or the muscles around the lungs get weak, whatever it is. But the brain reflexes are still on. There's movement because of the brain. The body's moving for the brain, or the body is thinking because of the brain, or there's reflex from the brain. So yeah, ALS and polio, they don't fit all the criteria. What's the criteria? Irreversible breathing, irreversible not breathing, and nothing coming from the brain. Nothing coming from the brain. And polio and ALS, there's plenty coming from the brain. They're even conscious, right? Again, it seems a little contrived, making up all this stuff. Someone's like, oh, I got this problem, I'll make up this. But if you look at it, if you look at all the sources, it's not the end of the world. Because they have the Gemara Numa that says breathing. That's what the Gemara Numa says, breathing. You have the Mishnah and Oilers that we don't care about movement different from the spine. So if you put it all together, it's workable. Irreversible breathing, as long as there's no movement from the brain. Oh. Okay? Now, there's going to be another way, which I think is the best way to answer. There's another way, and there's going to be a third way. The Rabbanut would say, what are you talking about? Movement, you're all into movement? First of all, the Rashi Numa that says there cannot be movement, the Rashi means something totally different. You have to remember, Rashi was talking before there was ventilation. Rashi just means if there's movement and you happen to check the breath for 6 minutes, it means you're retarded. It means you don't know how to check. All Rashi just means that if there's movement in the times of Chazal, if there was movement, it must be you didn't check right. That's what Rashi means there. It doesn't mean if there's movement you can't be dead. It means in the times of Chazal, if there's movement you can't be dead. Because I don't know how to break it to you guys. If you're not breathing for 6 minutes, you shouldn't be moving. So all Rashi means there is, if he's moving and you check that he's not breathing, either a nest happened or you didn't check right. Just forget Rashi Numa. In our days we could ascertain 1,000,000% that he's not breathing and there's movement. How nowadays can we ascertain it? Because we have this new phenomena. There's a new phenomena that he's not breathing, but we kept the heart going because we put artificial oxygen in there. But in the good old days, obviously, if you're moving, something wrong with your checking. What about the Mishnah? What about the Gemara in Gittin that says if you check the simanim, if you're moving, you're still alive? Well, of course, the Gemara in Gittin, you're breathing still. If you get your windpipe cut, are you breathing? There's a good chance you're breathing. Who says you're not breathing? You could breathe when your windpipe pipe. You could breathe when your windpipe is cut. Why not? The air goes into the windpipe. So the Gemara in Gittin is just saying very simply. When you check the two simanim, while he's jumping around, he may still be breathing. Who knows? If he stopped jumping around, you don't have to check anymore. The Gemara in Chid is actually a kula. It's not a chum, it's a kula. That if you check two simanim and he's not moving around anymore, now you can know for sure he's not breathing. You don't got to do the feather because his neck is totally ripped open. But while he's walking around, that could mean that he is breathing. So therefore, the Rabbanut would say, forget the Rashi, forget the Gemara and Gittin, it doesn't mean anything. All you need is irreversible breathing. If you can figure out irreversible breathing, you are dead. Okay, the only problem is, according to this mahalach, how do they answer the polio, the ALS? They're gonna have to say something like, a polio ALS person, he is breathing. He's trying to breathe. If you know how they want, it's not breathing would have to mean not breathing, not trying to breathe. A polio ALS person, they're actually the brain they're trying to breathe, they just can't. So it's a different story. We're not close. So anyway, let's get this straight. Oh. Rabbi side. This is where we wanted to get to. Maybe there's another whole mahalach. Pay attention. We're going to call the Rabbanut. Rabbanut, what do you say? Rip out that heart. No problem. The guy's not breathing on his own. And we're going to start asking the Rabbanut, whoa, what about the Chacham Tzvi? Whoa, the heart is the main thing. It's bumping on. Oh, what about that Rashi about movement? What about the Gemara and Gittin about movement? You know what the Rabbanut may answer? You're right. The Chacham Tzvi is right. The heart is the main thing. The heart is the main thing. And you're right. If movement, you can't be dead. Can't be dead. So what do you say, Rabbanut? Rabbanut says, but there's one exception to the rule. We know there's an exception to the rule. We know there's one exception to the rule. What's that exception to the rule? If the guy's head is cut off. That's an open mishnah. Who does roishay? When you cut off the guy's head, his heart's still beating for a second or two. Maybe even more. There's an exception to the rule. If you cut off a guy's head, no matter what, he could be singing an opera, he could be running the marathon. It don't make no difference. That's the open mishnah in. So again, this is going to be very crucial to see what the Rabbanut holds. Rabbanut, why is this guy dead? Is it A? Well, he's not breathing. Not breathing. That's all it is. Look at the Gemara and Yuma. The Gemara says if you're not breathing, irreversible not breathing, you're dead. What about the heart moving? I don't care. What about the movements? I don't care. Those are all from the spine, or we said we don't care, or we don't care about the heart. Irreversible breathing, that's it. And a brain deaf person is irreversible breathing. Is irreversible from ever breathing again. Irreversible from breathing again. That's one mahalach. Second mahalach. Rabbanut, what's going on over here? Why is this brain dead guy dead? His heart is going, his movement is going. The Rabbanut said, you're right. In a normal case, i.e. polio or ALS, of course he's not dead. But this guy, it's like he has no head. It's an open mishnah in Yuma, forget the Gemara in Yuma. It's an open mishnah in ALS. If you have no head, you are dead. I don't care what. That's an open mishnah. Who does Rashi, you're dead? Doesn't make a difference. So a brain dead person is like his head is cut off. Now so according to that mahalach, of course you have no question about polio and ALS. The ALS people with polio, their brain's working 1,000%. There's nothing wrong with their brain. Of course they're not. If we're saying that the mahalach, the reason why they're considered dead is because it's like they have no head. Oh. Now this is a major, major jump. What do you mean they have no head? They have a head. No, since the head ain't working, it's like they got no head. The ALS got people, it's dysfunction, right? It's not functioning. Oh. Now, here's the kicker. If you want to say that a brain dead person has no head, it's like it's cut off, and there's a special rule of not having a head, of being dead, it would make a lot more sense that's only if the brain is totally deteriorating, if it's totally liquefied. It's called lice. If it's totally liquefied, then maybe I can. Anyway, it's a big jump. Why is it a big jump? The Mishnah is talking about that the head is actually cut off, physically just not there. We want to make a jump that a brain dead person is like who does roishay. Now that would make a lot of sense, more sense, if the brain basically totally turned into water, which happens after a while. After a while, the brain doesn't get action, it actually just totally disintegrates. Right? That's true. But to tell me that if the brain is just not working, to tell me that that's called like the brain has been cut, like the head is cut off, that's a huge jump. I'm not saying people don't say that, but that is way, way out there. That is way, way out there. To say, now, you'll tell me, what's the difference, Rabbi, fine, what's the difference? The Rabbanut says brain dead is dead. Well, this is the big difference. If you know how brain death works, you could establish day one that he's brain dead. Basically that the brain is not working anymore. Basically the brain stem is not working. But it's actually going to take another 3-4 days until the whole brain basically turns to liquid. The whole brain basically necrosis. The whole thing falls apart. So it's going to be a big nafkamina. If you say the first shita, the second we decide the brainstem is dead, we know he's not breathing anymore. Irreversible breathing. That's it. Take out the heart. If you say like the second shot, you got to wait for much longer. And now we come to one of the big controversies of Reb Moshe Feinstein. Seemingly, Reb Moshe Feinstein said at one point, the big bruha is what Reb Moshe Feinstein said. What did he say exactly? But even if you want to say, Reb Moshe Feinstein said you could do a heart transplant. Even if you want to say it. He never said it openly. Definitely never said it openly. Even if you want to read that into his words. But did he? And the Rabbanut, they're like Reb Moshe. That's their big man. Their big man is Reb Moshe Feinstein. That's their man. That's keeping them going. Even if you want to say Reb Moshe Feinstein said it. But let me read his words. I've heard from my son-in-law, Rabbi Tendler, that in our days there are certain tests to prove that there's a total disconnection from the body to the brain by a brain dead person. And the brain has no connection to the body. And it is also totally putrefied. Nirkav hamoyach lagamri, v'zeh kahutas haroish. And it's like his head is cut off. I'll repeat another one. We all know about the Harvard criteria. Those are the first guys that did the brain death business. That's like the brain is cut off, and it is totally putrefied. Mitakel. What does it sound like? It sounds very much like Reb Moshe Feinstein is describing to the second shot. He agrees. Heart beating is a problem. Movement is a problem. It's all a problem. But if we could say that the guy's head is cut off, then it don't make a difference. It makes a difference. Heart is beating. It makes nothing makes a difference, right? Head cut off. You get a path like a Monopoly, straight to the funeral, straight to the cemetery. Your head is cut off. You're dead. It don't make no difference. You can be singing. It makes no difference. Anything can go. It makes no difference what's going on. And even the Chacham Tzvi would agree with that. Everyone agrees with that. That's the point. Everyone agrees with that. The Chacham Tzvi and Rashi and the Gemara and Gittin, movement, heart. Everyone agrees. No head. Nothing makes a difference anymore. Everyone agrees with that. Even the Chacham Tzvi would agree with that. Because it's an open Mishnah. You can't argue an open Mishnah. It's an open Mishnah. You can't argue that. That it's such a structural trauma. It makes no difference that your heart is beating. It doesn't make a difference. It's such a structural catastrophe. Nothing makes a difference. That's an open Mishnah in Oilers, and no one can argue. No one can argue that. So, if we're going to say that Rav Moshe Feinstein ascribed to that pshat, we're in big trouble. Because the Rabbanut keeps on calling on Rav Moshe Feinstein, and they actually do the heart transplant right away. They don't wait a long time. They do not wait an hour. They wait longer than in America, but they definitely don't wait for a long time. Meaning, Rabbanut would say, okay, you check the brainstem, you wait a couple of hours maybe, no brainstem, irreversible breathing, pull out the heart. The brain at that point did not liquefy. Maybe a little bit necrosis, maybe a little bit something here and there, but part of the brain is actually still working. The hypothalamus, if I pronounce that right, in the pituitary glands. There are certain things that are actually still working a little bit in the brain, right? So it must be the Rabbanut is going like the first shot, that when you're dead, irreversible breathing is dead. And when the brainstem is dead, irreversible breathing. And don't tell me about the heart, because I don't care about the heart. The Chacham is wrong. And I don't care about movement. We said all different reasons why I don't care about the movement. Either that's only spinal, I don't care about the spinal movement, or Bechlau we said movement was a mistake. All we need is irreversible breathing. The brainstem is dead, so day one, brainstem is dead. But Rav Moshe Feinstein seems to be going way number 2, that no, we are worried about the heart. We are worried about the movement. But brain death is like the head's cut off, but it's only cut off if it's total. Only if that takes many more days. And that is one of the major problems. So if we put it in front of you, I only did half of what I have here today. But if you put it, we're finished here. If you put it in front of you, let's talk to Rabbanut. We're going to start. There's so many problems that they have to. There's so many issues that they're taking so many leniencies to allow this. They have to say, again, it depends which way you're going. They're going to have to be going like the first way, basically. That irreversible breathing is all I care about. I don't care about anything else. And they're going to have to say, I don't care about the heart. And about the movement, they're going to have to find some way to get out of the movement problem. And they're going to have to say, attached to the ventilating machine is not called breathing. And they're going to have to say, we can prove it's irreversible. There are so many hurdles to go over. Me personally, I think this whole conversation is, this whole thing is a little bit ludicrous. In my mind, I would have said, listen, in the good old days, when the guy's not breathing, you knew everything went. That's the way it went. And we have this new phenomenon nowadays. We have this crazy new phenomenon nowadays that everything is working except for the breathing. Just in my mind, I always think you can't look at anything. You can't look at Gemaras. You can't look at anything. Don't look at anything, because we never know what they're talking about exactly. Because in the good old days, if you weren't breathing, it meant also everything went. The heart, the brain, everything went. To try to extract from these sources. Oh, you see that the breathing is the main thing. Look at Gemara Yuma. The main thing is the breathing. It just sounds to me so contrived. Like they didn't know. They weren't aware of any of this new phenomenon. They weren't aware of this new phenomenon. Rabbi said. So we have now a little bit of the issue. For all different types of reasons, Rabbi Yashiv and most Gedolim will say not to do heart transplant and not to heart transplant for all different types of reasons. I only threw out some of the reasons. All different types of reasons, and even Moshe Feinstein, who may have said, maybe next week, or a David Feinstein, he never said it. David Feinstein never said you could do heart transplant. He never said it. That's another whole huge controversy here. Even if Moshe Feinstein said, even if he said brain dead is dead, he was talking about maybe taking out the respirator. He was talking about maybe not putting back the respirator in. He never black and white said you could do heart transplant. So that's another whole issue that we could talk about. What was he actually talking about when he was talking about it? Taking out a respirator is a lot. If Shlomo Zalman Auerbach paskin, we paskin about taking out a respirator. You never take out a respirator. It's a whole huge machlokes. Even someone who's terminally ill, and someone Nebuch is a terminal cancer, loyalenu, in terrible pain. We never take out the respirator. Kemat never. Says the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Moshe meant in a brain dead person, we can take out the respirator. That much we can do. That much we could do. A whole, maybe next week, if we give a share, I'll explain to you the lum that's behind it. Because you're not really killing him, you're just taking away something, and that's okay maybe, when he's in such a bad shape. It's called Mesa Hamania, right? That's one issue. Another big issue that we're going to have to talk about is, wait one cut to pick a second. How are you doing all these tests? In order to figure out a guy's brain dead, you got to do a lot of tests. How are you doing all these tests? There's a law that a guy says, someone's about to die, you're not allowed to move him. So how in the world are you doing these tests? Even if you can figure out that he's brain dead, how do you do that? How do you do all these tests? The Rabbanut to have all goyim. What does goyim help do? Goyim doesn't help do. Tell a guy to kill someone. You can't tell a guy to do that. Yeah. So the Rabbanut have very, very difficult times getting out of this problem. Very, very, very difficult times getting out of this problem. Maybe we'll go into that next week also. The bottom line is, we had 9 shiurim, and We started off with the initial David the Chacham see. Maybe the machlokes is about brain death, and then we develop it more to our days. And believe nether, we'll see about next week if we want to just basically for half an hour to finish off a little bit. There are other issues about, okay, you're an American. You're an American. You say you're brain death, forget about this business. No, that's murder. Taking out a heart from a brain death person, that's murder. Okay, but you're an American. Could you put yourself on a Dorgan waiting list in America? You hold that it's murder. So how are you putting yourself on a Dorgan on a guy? A guy? So a guy's not a murder? The last time I checked the seven commands, one of them is you can't murder. If you hold that it's murder to take out the heart, how can you tell a guy to take out the heart? Or how can you? And maybe you're a Jew. You put yourself on the Dorgan. You put yourself on the organ list. Maybe a Jew will be the one who's donating it to you, and you're facilitating a Jew's death. That's another whole huge issue. If you hold like your Rabbi, no problem. It's not murder. It's great. You can even take out don't knock these guys. These guys are use somebody come. We're nothing compared to them. But trust me, they use somebody come. But if you hold like Rabbi, you can even take the heart out of the Jew. But if you hold not like the Rabbanut, and you want to be more machmir, so you should have put yourself on an organ recipient list. A both side. The issues go on and on and on. We'll have to make a decision if we want to give a share next week on Tuesday before a little bit of a hiatus. Okay, everybody, so we'll stop here.